Jeff Van Gundy is on the call. Somehow we make the segue. Jeff Van Gundy is on the call for the Eastern Conference Finals. He was in Miami last night. Now he goes up to Boston as the series shifts to Boston. Jeff, welcome. Sounds like the show's already in progress, right? Earlier I was talking about Danny Ainge. When he was the GM of the Celtic, he traded down. They won the lottery. He traded down, even though he loved Jason Tatum. And I was wondering, why would you risk losing Jason Tatum? Because what if the Lakers took Jason Tatum instead of Lonzo Ball? Philadelphia loved Markelle Fultz, but I was wondering that as I'm watching Tatum last night. Everybody looks at him and goes, he's a superstar, first-team All-NBA, but why do you think Danny Ainge ran the risk of maybe missing out on Jason Tatum?
Well, in retrospect, it was a brilliant move because he got added compensation. He probably knew that the Lakers were going to take Ball and that from what he gathered, they were going to take Fultz. And when you look back, and these are the hard things about drafting, it looks like a no-brainer now. But back then, I don't remember anybody saying, oh, yeah, it's a no-brainer that Jason Tatum should go one. And, but now it looks ridiculous that Philadelphia did what it did and the Lakers did what they did.
All right, let's get to last night's game. At what point does Eric Spoelstra, can you say anything to have your team, third quarter, can he say anything to help them shoot better?
No, I think when you are in a funk like they are shooting right now, and really playing. They have not played well since the third quarter of, game 3?
Yeah.
And they just haven't played well. They haven't shot it well. And frankly, Dan, I think they're not as talented as Boston is. I think Boston is the most talented team left in the playoffs. I think their size is overwhelming right now when Robert Williams is available. I just don't think they have good matchups. And if Jimmy Butler can't get going with Tyler Hero out, I just don't see how they have any chance of extending the series.
As a coach, how can you differentiate between that guy is going to be our number one option, that guy's our number two option, that guy's our number three option? And I point this out because Jason Tatum is the star. Jaylen Brown has to know his place, and then Marcus Smart has to know his place. Easier said than done, but as a coach, how do you do that where everybody sort of knows? Like Pippen knew his place with Jordan. You can go down McHale knew his place with Bird. I mean, the game is littered with players who understand their role, but it gets tricky when somebody thinks they're better than what they are. So how do you get Jaylen Brown to understand, hey, as long as you're the second option, we're great. Don't try to be the number one guy.
Well, I don't know if you have to differentiate it like that, where what you're trying to do is maximize the strengths of all your players. And what I think is hard to do, though, is not have the insidious nature of jealousy. When someone like Tatum is first-team All-NBA, that you're not jealous of that, and then that takes you down a bad path as a player. Jaylen Brown has been outstanding in the playoffs, and he's had a terrific year. And there's nothing, he should not compare himself to Tatum. He should just he's on a great path himself. But a lot of players get whacked out about, and it's not even the players sometimes, the people around the players always want their guy to have more, to get more recognition. And that's where to me, where Milwaukee, they've done a great job. Though, everyone knows Giannis is the guy, and Middleton and Holiday, they play great basketball, but there's no jealousy. There's, no insidious relationships. And I think Boston hopefully is achieving the same thing.
We're talking to Jeff Van Gundy. He's been on the call Eastern Conference. He's got Game 6, Heat Celtics tomorrow night in Boston. You have tonight the Golden State Warriors and the Dallas Mavericks. If you're Jason Kidd, what's your approach tonight in San Francisco?
Well, they've been in good shape in most of the games. They had, obviously, in Game 3, a horrendous shooting night. But when you have someone as good as Doncic, you always have a shot. And I don't expect them to win tonight, but I do expect them to play an outstanding game. I think they're going to play hard. I think they've done some really good things throughout the series. And if Doncic can get into the paint and collapse the defense, they'll get good shots. And if they can get good shots and make enough, they'll be in the game into the fourth quarter and have a puncher's chance.
You like Golden State or Boston?
I like Boston. I've liked Boston since the start of the playoffs. I just think their size, the high-end talent, I thought they made some great trades, so their depth, and then their defense is just otherworldly. Now, that is if Robert Williams can remain somewhat healthy. I think he's that important to their overall success.
If I said you had to make a choice, you can either keep Kyrie if you're coaching the Nets, or you can keep James Harden if you're coaching the Sixers. Who are you keeping?
I don't know. I think it's hard to determine that yet because you didn't see Harden for very long in Philly. I think both teams have championship aspirations. They need those two guys to have enough talent to be legit championship talented teams, and yet they both bring dilemmas to their respective teams that, are not necessarily easy to resolve. So these are all the tough choices. People that talk about, they should let him go, like Kyrie, let him go, right? Well, you don't have enough talent then if you let him go to win a championship. So I think I think both teams keep those guys because without them, they have no chance to compete for championships.
I'll leave you with this. Kevin Durant was asked last week, the center from the 80s or 90s who would flourish in today's NBA. Who would you pick?
The centers from the 80s or 90s?
Yeah. Who would flourish today?
A lot of them. Because the game would change. If you have that level of talent, Ewing, Olajuwon, Robinson, Shaquille O'Neal, Jabbar, they'd all be dominant right now. And people that don't understand greatness, those people would absolutely be great today because greatness, true greatness, is able to play any style and any era.
I picked Akeem. He's one of my favorite players. I think he's one of the more underrated players, if that's possible.
Well, if people are underrating him, they probably never saw him. The combination of defensive ability and then offensive, he could make a 17-footer. As he grew as an NBA player, he became a much better passer. And then his footwork, in the post, was something to behold. He would be dominant in any era. I don't know if Olajuwon, if you've seen him, if you could underrate him. He was just that good.
Safe travels, Jeff. Thanks for joining us.
You got it. Thanks, Dan.
Jeff Van Gundy. He'll be on the call for the mothership. Eastern Conference Finals now shifting to Boston.